we got a little bit of a major announcement to make.
Yeah, big announcement. Big.
Huge announcement.
So yeah, we have an exclusive on our Patreon, and of course we've been promoting our Patreon a lot lately, and I would encourage everybody to go there. Just go to Patreon and search for That's Enough Out of You, and you'll see our logo. Just click on that. We encourage you to join. We have a very exciting show coming up in August where we are bringing back author David Whalen, who wrote the book Mind Games, The Assassination of John Lennon. And of course, he's been on our show several times talking about his book. And the show that we have coming up is an exclusive Q&A episode. So if you are a Patreon member, you can join anytime between now and then. You have the ability to send us a question to ask David directly. We will do that. We will record an episode with him in August, and your questions will be asked and answered in that episode. So we highly encourage you to join. You can join Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I mean, Sean, I lose $1 a month in change in my car, so we're not asking for that much. I think you can get on there and see we have a lot available. We do, of course, our weekly speakeasy episode where we talk, kind of talk about current events. It's just kind of a off the cuff conversation with Sean and I. Real quick, just a little bit about David's book, so we can kind of give if you haven't heard our episodes with David, I think we've done 3 or 4 with him. Just give a little preview of the book.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're already a Patreon member, send your questions in, message them to me. But if you're not a Patreon member, sign up for $1 a month and then get your question in. But David's book, I think it's the best book on the John Lennon assassination. I mean, it opened my eyes because remember, Bill, we both of us thought there was nothing there, that it was an open and shut case. And David has really proven that there was a lot more to it, and that Chapman couldn't have done what they said he did. And he talks about all the nefarious people connected to the religious right and to Navy intelligence and to the CIA that were around Chapman, and it's just a fascinating book. So the questions you have about the official story, about who was behind it, questions about Chapman, questions about, the Chapman in visiting Japan in 1978, the same time Lennon was there. I mean, Dave discovered that. I mean, Dave's done a tremendous job. So any questions you got on the Lennon assassination, because there was no real investigation. NYPD had their guy, and that was it. And they didn't investigate the case.
There was no investigation. There was no trial. It was a joke. So, but again, it's a Patreon exclusive event. So you need to sign up for Patreon in order to ask the question and have it answered and see the episode. So we encourage you to go to our Patreon, go to patreon.com, search for That's Enough Out of You, and you'll find us. We're the only That's Enough Out of You podcast on Patreon. So look for us.
The last thing, Bill, make sure you get the questions in early. Like start getting them now. So this way, because once we have all the questions, then we could set this up. Because right now there's no date set. It's kind of tentatively set for August, but I mean, we have to get all the questions in and then prep for it and give Dave a heads up, and then we'll go from there. So get your questions in as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Sometimes even good people can make a mistake. And when it happens, it's one of the most intense and emotional experiences of your life. It could be a DUI, or maybe you were in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time. Or perhaps you just did something stupid at the spur of the moment without even thinking, and now you're in trouble with the law. Well, you need experienced legal help right away so you don't become a victim of the criminal justice system. Even good people can make a mistake, and if you, a friend, or a loved one has been accused of a crime, don't make another mistake by hiring the wrong attorney for the kind of help you need. You need to visit toddjohnslaw.com. That's toddjohnslaw.com, and then call Attorney Todd Johns today. Attorney Todd Johns has decades of experience helping good people like you who have made mistakes or bad decisions and will stand by you every step of the way. toddjohnslaw.com.
Hello, 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 and welcome to That's Enough Out of You. I am your host, Bill Rader, and joining me, my co-host, Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on?
Billy Raids, how you doing, buddy? We look like twins
Uh,
today, Billy, with the shirts, pal. We both.
I know. This was not planned, but we
Oh,
great minds think alike, right?
they do, and they're both of these shirts. Well, this shirt is on our merchandise store.
Yep.
You get this logo in a mug, glass, hats, and we got more coming, buddy. More logos coming.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully at some point. We've had a little trouble
No
to this
trouble.
point with.
We'll work through it. We'll work through it. But yeah, great day yesterday, Billy. Nathan played a doubleheader, so went to two baseball games, and then we took him to Cooper's afterwards. And Cooper's has a great JFK display there, so I posted it
Yeah.
on Facebook, people to see. It's got the PT 109, and nice tribute to Kennedy, really good. But yeah, great day to play baseball. A little hot, you can see I got sunburned pretty good, but
Yeah.
West Scranton, what a team they got, Billy. They won two games. First game, I think 14-5. Second game was like 19-1.
Yeah.
And your game went the distance because both coaches on the other side just said, we had enough, stop it. Stop the bleeding. The scrimmage they had last week, they won like 23-1. I mean, this team,
Wow.
they don't have a bad, like they have 14 kids, I think, Bill, and everyone could hit. So there's not a hole in the lineup. You got spray hitters, you got those tiny little guys that get the bloop singles, then you got the line-to-line hitters, and then you throw in the power hitters like Nathan, and they got a couple others that just smash the ball. So it's a team that's going to be hard to beat. They're fun to watch.
That's
Fun
great.
to watch. So
Yeah.
it was a good day yesterday, Billy. So how about you, pal?
Yeah, a good weekend. Did a little bit rehearsal with my band yesterday. We're auditioning new lead guitar players, so that's going pretty well, and yeah, doing pretty good. So, all right, Sean, let's get to our.
Well, wait, Bill, before we do, let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about, our sponsors. We're looking for more sponsors. We got a lot of great sponsors, and if you could
Right.
use them, our listeners, if you need their services, they're great. We're trying to help small business, Billy. We're doing that with the bookstore, go on our bookshop and buy books. Why give it to Bezos and Amazon when you could contribute to local bookstores? You know what I mean? You can contribute to a little bit to me and you, and then it goes to the publisher in the, the author of the book. I mean,
Right.
let's stop complaining about corporate America, and then, you go use them when there's other options out there. Support
Yeah.
small business.
Yeah, absolutely. And we thank you guys so much for supporting the show. It's really it's nice that, small businesses can support each other, and we certainly try to do that with our sponsors, and we thank the sponsors for doing the same with us. So,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, Billy, let's get into it because we get so many questions. We can never catch up. We're already, behind because we already got
Yeah.
it for another episode. So let's see how many we can get through today, buddy.
We got a ton of questions, and thank you to our listeners. We really have great listeners who send us thoughtful questions and comments, and suggestions for shows, recommendations for topics and guests and things like that. And we really appreciate that. One thing we don't need are suggestions on how to format the show.
Yeah.
Because we can handle that on our own. We're not professional broadcasters. We never claim to be. But we kind of put the show together how we want. And we do the show and you guys listen to the show, and we really, like I said, we really appreciate the feedback and love it. But we'll take care of the technical stuff with the show.
And Bill, one thing on the we mentioned this on a premium show, but we should mention it here. You're not going to hear from the American Patriot anymore. We decided that enough is enough.
Yeah.
It's just he's too toxic. His messages. At first it was funny, but then it just got racist and filled with a bunch of hateful comments. And we gave him enough publicity, so enough with him.
Yeah, as usual. It always kind of ends up in that kind of that kind of a tirade with
Yeah.
people of low intelligence. So anyway, all right, let's get started then with our questions. These are highly intelligent questions from our highly intelligent listeners.
Absolutely.
All right, so the first one comes from Tate 2480 in Akron, Ohio. For Sean, does the commission, or I'll say this, do the commission families control the Chicago mob?
Ooh, great question, Billy. Great question. So, originally, yes. Originally they did because and we're gonna have a show coming up on the beer wars with Al Capone. And Al Capone, one of the myths about Al Capone is he was never a member of Cosa Nostra. He was a gangster. He was a gangster. And he ran the South Side Gang. Okay. And Lucky Luciano, who was the head of what would become the Genovese family, never let Capone in. He would not let Capone in. Now, the mafia did, as the Chicago outfit grew and the Cosa Nostra family grew in Chicago into the 70s, and New York had their problems with Bugsy Siegel, and they lost some of the power in Vegas. Chicago took over a lot of that power in Vegas, and that was a lot to do with Tony Accardo and the movie Casino. You see that, Billy. So when that happened, Chicago basically ran everything west of the Mississippi, and they would look after mob families in like Milwaukee and Los Angeles and places like that. They would kind of do that. In New York didn't have the authority to kind of push Chicago around like they did when Luciano was telling Capone couldn't be involved, so I would say in the 70s is kind of when Chicago, they weren't on a commission, but they kind of ran parallel to the commission, kind of running everything West Coast, mid to West Coast. So, and one thing, Billy, I'm getting a lot of, it's just, arguments back and forth, people online with the mob stuff. It's just like some people just can't get this mob did it, JFK assassination stuff out of their mind. It's just, back and forth. And the thing is, when people say, well, nobody really knows what happens, that's kind of insulting, Billy. That's kind of insulting because you know what? I know we don't have a document that says, Allen Dulles wrote down, I killed JFK. I mean, he's not that stupid. Right. But the thing is, Bill, with all the research and all the stuff, the documents from the ARB that's been out, and when you say something like that, it's insulting to people like Jim D'Eugenio and Lisa Pease, because we have a pretty good idea what happened. Can we tell you exactly what happened? No. But we have a pretty good idea. So in the mob, we know the mob did not mastermind it. I mean, how many times do we have to go over this stuff? And then people keep bringing up Carlos Marcello. Bill, we said that the threat against Kennedy Marcello, the guy that claimed to make that threat in 1963, didn't meet Carlos Marcello to 1993. So that thing was a hoax. Right.
Yeah.
So once you get past all that hearsay and all that nonsense, and then you understand that none of the suspects were on the commission, then you realize the mob didn't do it. And it's just getting, and when that movie comes out with stupid Al Pacino, we're going to have to be answering these dumb questions again. And I don't mean to say dumb, but I mean, it's just some people, Bill, and some of these people are great, intelligent listeners that ask questions every week, but they just, they want to put the mob in, and again, maybe individual mobsters subservient to the CIA were involved, but let's get past it. That's where it ends, and that's it. So.
All right. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like it's like a puzzle, right? Like a huge puzzle, and some of the pieces are missing, but you can still look at the puzzle and see what it is. You can still see what the picture is, right?
You're not going to realize that two presidents are not holding the files back because the mafia did it.
Right.
I mean, get past that,
Exactly.
And the same thing, Billy, with the people who want to say Lyndon Johnson masterminded, or there's people out there now, Bill, there's a big push to say the Israeli Mossad masterminded the Kennedy. I mean, let's just stop it, because a lot of that's coming from anti-Semitic people, and let's just stop it. I think we know who the mastermind was. We believe it. We talk about it every week.
That's right. All right. Next question, Sean. This is from KH7677. Small, and this is more of a comment, and it's in reference to the panel episode, I'm assuming. Small sample size for the survey, although the findings are in line with expectations. So if you haven't seen the panel episode, Go back and listen to that on, you can listen to it on, we have the podcast version of it, the audio only version of it. And then the video on YouTube is in 2 parts. So make sure if you're going to watch that, make sure you watch both parts, because it's in 2 parts on YouTube. But yeah, what do you think about that comment, Sean?
Well, I don't want to speak for Professor Pablo, but I mean, I think what he did is he picked, a small sample size on purpose, because he picked people that he trusts and that he's dealt with over the years that really have researched this case, and really know the case. So he's not going to send out, just a bunch of the surveys to people who don't know anything about the case, or they haven't read the Warren Commission, or haven't done. So, I mean, I think it was done small sample size on purpose, because he wanted to get really specific with the people who were researching this for 20, 30 years or more.
Right. I agree. And, when he says the findings are in line with expectations. Yeah. I don't think that there was anything that surprising on that survey.
No.
Yeah.
And we're going to have another episode coming up, Billy, because he's bringing back, Professor's coming back, and he's got the questions. I think we're going to talk about, are we talking about motive next? I forget, but we're going to be talking with some more experts. So we'll be back talking about that survey.
Good. All right. Can't wait for that. That's Enough Out of You is sponsored by CARFECTA, Scranton's premier destination for finding the vehicle of your dreams. With a commitment to service, value, and selection, CARFECTA is your trusted partner in every step of your auto purchase journey. Our sales staff will work with you to select the perfect vehicle from our diverse inventory. Our friendly office staff will assist you in securing financing and offering warranties. At CARFECTA, our dedicated team is here to make your car buying experience seamless and satisfying. Located in Scranton, Pennsylvania at 220 South 7th Avenue, or call us at 272-770-0080 and check us out on Facebook. With years of experience serving the area, our dealership is dedicated to offering high-quality pre-owned vehicles to our customers. From the moment you walk through our door, we're committed to providing you with a great car buying experience. With our skilled sales staff and financing options, we'll help you get the vehicle you want at the great price you deserve. Visit CARFECTA today and let us exceed your expectations. Are you thinking about selling your house? Well, Bob Connors, a realtor at Christian Saunders Real Estate, says, I can't sell your house, but I sure as heck can market it and get it from sell to sold. Call Bob today for great marketing and to get a ton of eyeballs on your house. Are you in the market to buy a home? Not sure where to start? If it looks like something you shouldn't buy, Bob's going to tell you that. Think you can't buy a house or have no idea where to start? Been there, done that. Bob will get you going in the right direction. You can reach Bob at 570-614-3624 or 570-335-9000. And you can find Bob on Facebook at Bob Connors-Realtor. Whether you call Bob or not, please remember, stay awesome, all you awesome humans, and be kind to each other. Bob Connors, the realest real estater. And thanks to Bob Connors and Christian Saunders Real Estate for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You. All right. Next question comes from Joe Backus. Or actually, again, this is not a question, it's so much of a comment, or it's actually, looks like it's a line from the JFK movie where he says, in that document, the revised NSAM 273 laid the Vietnam War.
And that was, of course, Mr. X, Donald Sutherland.
Right.
Based on Fletcher Prouty. And that's a great line. And we're going to be having Greg Burnham's going to come back. We're going to talk about that because we got so much feedback, Bill, on NSAM 263 and 273. And I was just on Bruce the Torres' show, and I touched on that a little bit. But yeah, that document, I mean, it was a full reversal. We talked about that. And John Newman said a perfect thing, a very important thing on our episode, the panel episode. He said if a war planner looked at 273, they could do whatever they want to do. Whatever they want to do if they looked at that. And that was after the changes that were made by Bundy that Johnson told them to do. And where did Johnson get, his orders from? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, a war planner could do whatever he wants on 273.
Yeah. All right. Next question, Sean, comes from McGarrett50 in Kailua,
5-0,
Hawaii. I hope I'm
McGarrett
saying that
5-0,
right.
buddy. That's a Hawaii 5-0 reference.
Oh, okay. McGarrett50. Gotcha. That one went over my head. All right. So this is something I don't know anything about. He's asking Sean, assuming it's a he, if not a she, I apologize. Sean, Bill, why don't you do an episode on one of JFK's best but little known accomplishments when China invades India during the Cuban Missile Crisis? Sean, I don't know anything about that.
Well, we are going to do an episode, Billy. I started to work on it, but then we get sidetracked because we have so many guests coming on, and but there's a great book. It's called The Forgotten Crisis on this. But what happened, Bill, was during right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis, China decides to invade India. Okay. And this caused so many problems, Bill. And the thing is, JFK, this is the greatness of JFK, his diplomacy, unbelievable. Because at this time, all his intelligence and resources and advisors are focused on the Cuban Missile Crisis. Even his most trusted advisor, RFK. So this is all JFK. And the only person really is Galbraith, ambassador. He was ambassador in India. He worked with JFK on this, but besides that, it was all JFK. And what he did, the diplomacy he did, Billy, he was able to keep, because now think about this, Bill. Pakistan has been a longtime enemy with India. They're seeing India on the ropes there. China's invading, so they see a chance to jump in and just wipe India right out. And JFK was able to keep Pakistan at bay, who wasn't happy with him to begin with because JFK was forming an alliance with India, and they didn't like that, and they were a longtime ally. So, the diplomacy he's able to do, and then he was able to back China down, Bill, and that was unbelievable. And the thing is, Mao was really upset about this, and it hurt relations with China. And JFK later said in his second term he was going to try to, normalize those relations and kind of, work with him to try to get back to where, at least to where they were before. And the thing is, how could he do that if he's going to escalate the war in Southeast Asia? So that's another reason why he wasn't going to, do that in Vietnam. But, yeah, unbelievable diplomacy, JFK, to keep Pakistan at bay, help India. And Bill, he really put it to China, where he said, if you attack India, I believe he threatened to send in troops if necessary to help India. I mean, he really was going to defend India. And China stood that, and China backed down, Billy. And again, JFK's doing this with Galbraith. He doesn't have anybody else that he could ask to be beyond this, because everybody's focused on the Cuban Missile Crisis because the world is at risk here. So
right,
it's
sure.
Diplomacy, and yeah, it's the forgotten crisis, and it's just another greatness of John Kennedy. Great.
Yeah. Boy, we definitely need diplomacy today with all the war going on right now. It's not even war. It's
Chaos, Billy.
It's chaos, and it's just a disaster happening.
John Kennedy was so great at stepping in these unbelievable crises, Bill, that are like threatening the entire world.
Yeah,
and he was able to step in and when needed he could be forceful.
Right.
He realized, because he was a military guy, Billy, he realized war has to be the last option.
Yeah.
Everything else has to be exercised first. But yeah, great story.
Yeah. That's a great question. Appreciate that. Thank you. McGarrett50. All right. Next question, Sean, comes from Mr. French in France. And I'm not even going to attempt this, the town or the city that this man is in France, because I don't speak French. I took French in high school, which was a long time ago. Sean. But I couldn't even speak French when I took French. So, all right. The question is, guys, and again, this is in reference to the panel episode. First of all, I hope you appreciate the Departed reference, the Mr. French. Absolutely. Love the survey episode. However, I wanted to hear more from you two. Why didn't you talk more? Two questions. Are you aware of the French Corsican drug traffickers assassin theory? If so, thoughts? Second question, how much of Jack's character in The Departed was based on Whitey Bulger? So, Sean,
Well,
first of all, let's address why we didn't talk in the panel episode.
Bill, I can't tell you, we got so much feedback on that. So many people said that to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I mean, of course we're humbled. That's great that they want to hear from us. But when you have legends on like John Newman and Professor Pablo and Greg Burnham, you got to let them talk. I mean, I thought we asked what we wanted. We gave her input when needed. But you know, we never had John Newman on our show before. We never had Greg Burnham on our show. So you got to let those guys, you know, you got to let those guys talk. I mean, those guys are legends in the field, Billy.
Yeah. And plus, you know, Paul was really moderating that.
Right.
He was kind of the host. We essentially provided the platform for them to have this panel. So, and we were honored to be able to do that.
Sure. And I'll tell you, Bill, the real, you know, missed opportunity there that we had was we recorded. John Newman logged on early, so it was just me, you, and John for about 5 minutes before the show, and we had an amazing conversation with John Newman.
I wish we recorded that.
Oh, we should have recorded, because such a missed opportunity, Billy, because we talked about so much stuff, and John, of course, you know, I mean, he was advising Oliver in the '91 film. I mean, he worked for the NSA. I mean, he was military intelligence. He's you know, professor teaching Asian history. I mean, this guy, you know, the stories we were talking about at Lansdale and the stuff we covered, Billy.
Yeah.
I mean, just great.
It'd be great if we could get him on at some point, just him, you know.
Yeah, we'll try to get him back. And Greg Burnham's coming back. We have him scheduled. So
great. Good. Okay. All right. So the getting back to the questions, Sean, the French Corsican drug traffickers assassin theory. What is that?
Well, okay, so I think he's talking about Christian David, because I don't want this to get confused with the OAS, which is the, you know, that I talked about, where I think the guy Sutre might have been one of the shooters, and the OAS was trying to get rid of de Gaulle in France, and they were backed by Alan Dulles. I think what he's talking about is the Corsican drug theory with Lucien Sarti. He said was this guy. What happened with Bill was this guy, I think I can't remember the guy's name, Steve Revell maybe or something. He was an investigator, and he came across this theory that this Corsican drug dealer in France named Christian David, he was in prison at the time, and he claims that he was offered a contract to kill Kennedy. Okay, and it was done by, of course, Santo Trafficante, but it was done through, I believe, U.S. intelligence. And they hired David. They wanted David to assassinate Kennedy, but he refused because it was going to be done in the United States. If it was done on foreign soil, he said he would have took it. And they bring in this other assassin, Lucien Sarti. But the whole thing, Bill, has been investigated, and it turns out that, you know, Sarti wasn't in Dallas. They proved he was somewhere else. So the whole thing falls apart once you start looking at it. There's really, you know, on the surface, I think it was in the documentary, The Men That Killed Kennedy, I believe. On the surface, it looks like a great story, but it's like everything else, Billy. It's like the Madeline Brown story with the oilmen, how at the party at their house. Like when you really start looking at some of this stuff, like James Files and you know, all that stuff, it starts to fall apart. So this theory that there's nothing to it, it's been discredited.
Okay. All right. And then the second question is on the movie The Departed, which is one of our favorites.
Oh yeah.
And he's asking how much of Jack's character, so Jack Nicholson, how much of his character, and I forget the name of his character in the I think it was Frank Costello, right?
Frank Costello,
Costello, okay.
Which is interesting because there is a real gangster, Frank Costello.
Yeah.
That wasn't his real name though, but
so how much of Frank Costello is based on Whitey Bulger?
That's probably 90% Nicholson and 10% Whitey. It's loosely Whitey, like the general outline, but yeah, it's not really, you know, it's just loosely based on him. There's a lot of Nicholson in that.
Right.
And you know that because
sure.
He did a lot on that, and he improvised a lot. And it's a great. That's a classic movie. It's a classic movie. It's it's the general outline of the story is accurate, but
Yeah.
most of it is fictional, but it's just such the characters, the actors. I mean, Mark Wahlberg is tremendous in that.
Yeah.
Alex Baldwin is tremendous.
Yeah.
Leonardo's great. I mean,
Yeah.
Matt Damon is great.
And I would say if you want a good laugh, there's a story that Matt Damon tells about Nicholson. And there's a scene, I think it's early in the movie, where him and Mr. French was the name of his guy, right? The right-hand man guy.
They kill that girl in the
when they shoot the girl, they shoot the girl, and he says she fell funny.
Yeah.
There's a great story behind that. So if you search for that on YouTube, search for Matt Damon and Jack Nicholson, and he tells the story on a radio show. It's really great, really funny.
Nicholson was unbelievable in that. He was so good.
He was fantastic. Everybody was.
Yeah, the whole cast was great. You know who else was great in that? Martin Sheen.
He was great. And then I can't think of the actress's name, but she was fantastic too.
Yeah.
And then
I forget her name, but yeah, she was great.
And then she ended up playing Livia Soprano in the Sopranos movie. Geez, now I can't even think of the name of that one.
Many Saints of Newark.
Right. Saints of Newark. Yep.
Yeah. She's a really good actress. She was great in that.
Yeah. Really
the whole cast, just the writing and everything. Me and you saw that in the movies, Billy.
I know. Yeah.
That was a great movie. Classic.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Mr. French. All right. The next question comes from the latest flame, one of our Patreons. Holy shit, he starts off with. So paragraph 4 of NSAM 273 goes off the rails outside of the purpose of the NSAM about Vietnam policy and turns for that one paragraph into an instruction about reacting to the murder. I need to reread these documents. So I guess it's more of a comment than anything else, Sean.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Greg Burnham about this. I had a conversation with Lisa Pease about paragraph 4 because it's a very troubling. And Greg Burnham talked about this where he feels they're talking about the reaction to the assassination. But my conversation with Lisa Pease thinks that it could be talking about JFK's withdrawal policy and that he wanted to get everybody on board because most people were against that. So that paragraph 4 is very interesting, just like the whole NSAM 273 is very interesting. It was written the day before the assassination. So, who was it written for? Was it written for Johnson or Kennedy? Because we know if it was written for Johnson, the implications, but, and then John Newman talked about how the last paragraph was changed, and that really was the Vietnam War, so it's amazing. And we're going to go over that with Greg Burnham. We're going to have a very deep dive on the Vietnam with Greg. So we'll talk more about that later.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Latest Flame, for that one. The next question, and again, I think this is more of a comment, comes from Corey DY2CQ. And I don't know if that's a reference to something. If it is, it's over my head. What happens when it's all exposed? They just keep denying. Ivy League, the academies, the elitist BS. The soldiers become generals, politicians. The generals, especially, turning to the money breaks my heart the most. Yet, if there were pointers and from the academies, I hate them even more. Spoiled little entitled bastards. Expected payouts. This is kind of a rambling sentence, just like their entire privileged life. 58,000 men dead. Cuba still impoverished. Korea still a shit show. How did China and Russia turn on us after World War II? We saved them. I don't get it. So a lot.
He's covered a lot of ground there, Billy.
Yeah.
He's basically talking about the elitist, and we talk about Rockefeller and these guys and all the stuff they were doing all over the world. And of course, Vietnam, he's talking 58,000 men dead. So there was a lot of ground he covered there. When you talk about the elitists, and then you got to talk about Allen Dulles, Sullivan and Cromwell. So, yeah, I mean, there was, they cause a lot of problems all over the world, Billy. And that's why a lot of places hate America. And it's not because of me or you. It's because of Allen Dulles and David Rockefeller.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Corey. All right. Next one comes from Mr. Roth in Israel.
Name that town, Billy. Pronounce that town.
I can't. Petha Tikva, something like that. But anyway, Mr. Roth says, Sean, you always talk about the relationship between the Italian mafia and the Irish Jewish mob. However, you rarely mention the Jewish gangsters, which isn't true. We do. I would love to hear an episode on Meyer Lansky, Mickey, or Bugsy. What's that?
Mickey Cohen and Bugsy
Mickey
Siegel.
Cohen, Bugsy Siegel, right. Come on, dogs. Bill, you said you were Jewish, so tell Sean enough about the Irish and talk about those tough Jews. Are you familiar with the book Kosher Nostra? I'll be waiting for the episode. Thanks, guys. Just chop busting. I love your show. And Mr. Roth, we thank you, and smaller piece.
Of course, that's a reference to Hyman Roth, the Jewish gangster character in Godfather 2. But he's not totally rhymed, Bill, because, you know, and this is my bad. We have talked a little bit about Jewish gangsters, but we didn't do an episode like we did with the Irish gangsters. So we are working on one. We're going to have one, and it's going to be pretty detailed, Bill, because just off the top of my head, one day I just start jotting down Jewish gangsters that we got to talk about, and I got like 20 names right off the top of my head, Billy, because there's so many key, like when you know the guys we know about, Meyer Lansky, and you hear about all the time, but you know, Bugsy Siegel, and but there's also like Lepke Buckholter, and then there's Murder Incorporated, which a lot of them were Jewish gangsters, and just, you know, you go all over Ruby Stein with the Westies, and you know, there's just so many. The Shonda Burns in Cleveland that we touched on a little bit, got involved with the Danny Green there with the
car bombing.
Yeah, the car bombs. So I mean, there's just so many Jewish gangsters that, you know, Mickey Cohen is one that was a powerhouse, Billy, and he, you know, we're gonna have to talk about him because he had, you know, he kind of was like the Whitey Bulger to the West Coast, but in a Jewish version, you know. He had his own crime family, and Mickey Cohen, you know, worked for a lot of different key gangsters like Oni Madden, who was Irish, and you know, some others out through the years, and he was a very, very powerful. He became a powerhouse in California, Billy. So yeah, we're definitely going to do an episode. And no, I haven't read that book, but I'm looking for it now. It's not on a bookstore, so I'm going to try to get it at it. And I want to read that book because the title is very clever title.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Got to be good because you can't, like I said before, but you cannot tell the story of American Cosa Nostra without the Irish and the Jewish. You can't. And there was a certain trust there. I said this on Bruce the Torres' show. And the gangsters, Sammy Gravano talks about this, Michael Francis. He says there was a certain trust there the Italians had with the Irish and the Jewish gangsters that they just didn't have with other ethnic groups. And they, you know, it's kind of a myth that they dealt with anybody who was making money. There really was a lot of trust. There might be some isolated incidents, but normally they're just dealing with the Irish and the Jewish. And we talked about gangsters, Billy, when you be a made guy in Cosa Nostra, and you have to be 50% now on your dad's side. Usually the other side is Irish and Italian. If you notice that, we talked about Billy D'Elia, talk about Frank Salemi up in Boston, who became acting boss of the Patriarca family. He was half Irish, you know. So you start to see that, and you see that with Jewish gangsters too. So yeah, we'll talk about it. We're definitely gonna have an episode. So no reason to get up there, buddy, Mr. Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Roth.
You don't need to be sending Uncle Junior after us.
That's right.
Uncle Junior was his right hand. Remember the guy?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, don't forget what happened to Mr. Roth either. He was retired investor living on a pension, and next thing you know, he was dead in the airport.
What a great character, though. And actually, he mentions in Godfather 2, I believe, Billy, another Jewish gangster that we have to talk about, and that's Arnold Rothstein, who actually, you know, was accused of rigging the Black Sox. Black Sox 1919. Yeah. So we're going to mention Rothstein. He's a very important character too, and the whole syndicate picture. There's so many Jewish gangsters, Billy, that we're just going to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Next.
Do you need a new roof? Are you looking to repair damage to an existing roof?
Call the roofing professionals at Quality Roofing Express. Located in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Quality Roofing Express is a certified Owens Corning contractor. We are an independent, family-owned business connecting with our community and providing quality work. Our expert team can install metal roofs, rubber roofing, or traditional asphalt shingles. Do you need chimney flashing? How about a new skylight to increase your home's value and let that natural sunlight in? At Quality Roofing Express, we do it all, even siding. Check out our website, qualityroofingexpress.net, or visit us on Facebook. Give us a call at 570-614-3914 for a free estimate today. Quality Roofing Express. We put a roof over your head. DK's Corner has moved. Come see us in our brand new location at 201 Cherry Street in Jessup, Pennsylvania, right across from the Jessup Plaza. Enjoy a brand new menu with hot and cold sandwiches, soups, salads, pizza, delicious breakfast, including breakfast bowls and sandwiches, specialty coffees, and DK's famous Razzle Dazzle flavor shaken espressos, and still the best cheesesteaks around. Follow DK's Corner on Facebook and Instagram, or call them at 570-209-0278 to find out about their daily specials and catering. And DK's Corner now has beautiful outdoor seating for the summer. Don't feel like leaving the house? Call DK's Corner for delivery. And we thank DK's Corner for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You. DK's Corner, now in Jessup, Pennsylvania. That's Enough Out of You is also sponsored by Case Quattro Winery, featuring over 20 flavors of wine, from dry red, dry white, and fruit for your sampling pleasure. Case Quattro Winery offers entertainment, parties, and private events. Now serving a full menu with a little something for everyone, including appetizers, salads, dinners, pizza, and desserts. Case Quattro has some of the best live entertainment in the area, with comedy and karaoke nights and live bands. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram for all of our upcoming events. And if you mention the code OUTA, that's OUTTA, you get 15% off of your order. Located on Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, call 570-382-3855 for more information. And we thank Case Quattro Winery for their support. Next question comes from Larry from Vegas. Bill and Sean, did you two watch Everything is a Rich Man's Trick about JFK and 9/11? What did you think of it? That's one I've never heard of, Sean.
I did watch it, Billy, and just to tell you that the guy who did it, Francis Conley, I believe his name is, he's been reaching out to me on social media a lot. He a couple of times he posted on my Facebook wall, a couple other platforms, and I tried to private message him, and he didn't get back to me because I don't like to talk about, if I got something to say criticizing somebody, I don't like to do it on a wall, a Facebook front page like that.
In public,
privately.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather do it privately. But he keeps texting me and he's saying, he keeps putting it on the Facebook wall, and he's basically saying that, Sean, my documentary has been considered the final word on the JFK assassination, and I don't know why you don't talk about it on your podcast. And I tried to tell him, and I wanted to tell him this privately, but the thing is, I think his podcast, when I first seen it, his documentary, thought it was enjoyable. But the problem with it, Billy, is there's too many bad things in there. There's too many things that are discredited. He quotes the book Double Cross, and we told you, if you quote the book Double Cross, we just can't have you on our show or talk about it, because that book is fiction. Jim G. Like he says, it's a novel. And if you're quoting stuff from that, and then he quotes other things, like there's some stuff like Marita Lorenz, Billy, who was Castro's girlfriend. Like she told so many stories, it's hard you can't take a lot of this stuff at face value. And then he named the shooters, Billy. He has Jack Lawrence as one of the shooters. We talked about Jack Lawrence. Double Cross has him as a Carlos Marcello guy, which he wasn't. Had no connection to Marcello. But he has him shooting from a storm drain, Billy. And the problem with the storm drain shot, Billy, it doesn't line up with the headshot. So and listen, I'm not saying that. I think Assassins, there was a water runoff, Billy. Okay. And we know that some of these Cuban exiles had the underground plans because the underground sewer system in Dealey Plaza, because Jim Garrison discovered that. But I think it was there was a water runoff behind the knoll there, Billy, where I think an assassin could have escaped. And you go right down there, and a small guy could have been able to go through there. Like me or you, not going to fit in there, Billy, but the smaller guy would be able to get in there and get out. But I don't think there was an assassin shooting from the storm drain. It certainly wasn't Johnny Roselli. It certainly wasn't Jack Lawrence. So there's a lot of things in that documentary, Billy, that just doesn't add up. Like again, he brings the mafia into it. I don't know why these people have to you have to bring the mafia into everything. And it's like, and it's just, it didn't make any sense. He's trying to tie the Gambinos and the commission into it, and it didn't make any sense. He talked about the Madeline Brown story, Billy, and he put it in there as it was a fact. And the problem with the Madeline Brown story, Billy, is, this was a story where Madeline Brown was supposedly girlfriend of LBJ, and supposedly had a kid with him. And she said that the night before the Kennedy assassination at the Murchisons, which were the founders of the Dallas Cowboys, Billy, big oilmen, they were tied with H.L. Hunt, and there was a huge party at her house, and LBJ came in there, and he went in the back room, and he came out and he said something to the effect that we're not going to have to worry about these Kennedy brothers after tomorrow. But the problem with it, Billy, is the years go on, people kept getting added to the story. Like J. Edgar Hoover was there, Richard Nixon was there, George Bush was there, and all these people, and people that we know couldn't have been there. And it's just at some point, Billy, then another thing came out that the Murchisons, old man Murchison was in the hospital during this thing. So there probably was no party even at his house because he was in the hospital. So the whole thing just falls apart. There's too many things that, so that story is in there. The Jack Lawrence thing is in there. There's just too much in that whole document.
Maybe Sean, we could have him on a Patreon episode and kind of just go through. I mean, if he has evidence for these things, maybe he can.
How can you have evidence, Bill, when you're quoting double cross? I mean,
well, I don't know. That's what I want to. If he really wants to do that, let's talk. I certainly, I don't want to deny anybody an opportunity to present their case, but they have to have a case. They have to have something other than.
And if we're going to do that, we should probably bring Jim or Lisa on too, because a lot of that, I mean, a lot of it is just like the Jack Lawrence thing. Like we could easily discredit that. And there's other things, the Madeline Brown story, and Jim about that at length. I mean, but there's just too much in there, Billy. And then I think he had Woody Harrelson's father, like that whole thing, like too many rumors, Billy, and they just put them all together in this thing. And it's just, sometimes less is better, Billy. Less is more, Billy.
Sure.
You don't have to put every single conspiracy and bring in everybody, Richard Nixon and all these people, George Bush and the mafia and the commission. And I mean, not everybody was involved in the assassination, Billy.
True.
I think he even had Governor Conley, Billy. Governor Conley was at the Madeline Brown story. Madeline Brown, he was in the story. He was at the house, the Merkins' house. Now, you tell me, Billy, if you're going to be involved in a conspiracy, do you want to be sitting next to the guy that's getting shot at?
No, and then get shot yourself. No, that's
come on.
That wouldn't be in my plans.
And the LBJ mastermind stuff, and come on, we talked about that, Billy. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So if he's open to it, I mean, we'll do it on a Patreon, but I want to bring Jim and Lisa on too.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, thank you, Larry from Vegas. All right, next one comes from my favorite name of all of our listeners, Potatoes O'Brien. Sean, watched you on Bruce's show. You hit a home run, lad. It was great, but you and Bill separated is a crime. You covered a lot of great topics, but wish you talked more about the magic bullet theory. Bruce works great with you guys. So, and by the time this airs, that will have been probably about a month or so ago that you were on Bruce's show. And you did a great job, obviously. It was a great show. And the reason I wasn't on is because it was recorded during the day on a weekday, and I have a day job, so I couldn't make it. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I think Sean represented the show very, very well. So
But Bill, we are
Um,
like making a Mad Dog, buddy. Like you don't want to break us up, so it wasn't. It was a little weird, but Bruce does a great job, and
yeah.
I had a good rapport with Bruce, and I think we covered a lot of ground. But what he's talking about there, potatoes. I did talk about the magic bullet. I mean, I don't know how much more I could say. I talked about Dolce, the medic, the field medic. I talked about, you know, Arlen Specter. I mean, the thing is, Billy, let's just talk about Carlos Hathcock. Carlos Hathcock, the greatest sniper in the Vietnam War uh, history. Um, After he got done with the military, he set up a sniper school, Billy. Okay.
Mhm.
And police department SWAT units from all over the world, Bill, from Germany, they would come to train with this guy because he was unbelievable. And he set up the entire thing that the Warren Commission said, including the magic bullet, and he tried to uh, try to replicate Oswald's shooting that the Warren Commission said he did. And he couldn't do it. The greatest sniper in probably maybe even history, Billy, not just
Mhm.
Vietnam history, maybe the entire U.S. Army history, U.S. military history. He couldn't do it. And then he talked to different people that served with Oswald, including the training officer, and they all said Oswald was a bad shot. And the thing is, one guy even said, Billy, if I could pick one person in the entire world to shoot at me, it'd be Lee Harvey Oswald because he could be standing in front of me and he missed me. And that was somebody who served with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how much more I could say about it, Billy. The thing is, the lone gunman theory, it needs like it's for it to work. You can't take a tiny little piece away from it because it all falls apart. And Arlen Specter understood this. This is why he told the other commission members, look, we either go with this or we got to look for another shooter. And they
Right.
didn't do that because he
Right.
knew that he just load of malarkey is the only way you could say there was a single shooter.
Yeah.
And it's easily picked apart. And when you pick a little piece apart, the whole thing falls apart,
Right.
So I don't know much more to say about it.
And the other thing is one of the things that drives me crazy about like Joe Rogan is when he says something like,
Yeah. He could
well,
make
and anything could have happened with the shooting. Don't if it could have been done. Don't tell me that it couldn't have been done because it could have been done. Well, it couldn't have been done because
could have been done.
the best sniper in the world couldn't do it.
Exactly.
So don't. Anyway,
Rogan thinks there was a conspiracy, but he just thinks like
right.
he can make that shot. Well, Joe, how could you shoot somebody when the shot's coming from the front and the back? How could you be one guy shooting from two separate locations? You can't. That's the problem.
Right.
And he just doesn't seem to understand that. He just wants to brag about how great of a shot he is. Well, you're not a better shot than Carlos Hathcock, Joe. I guarantee that, buddy. So,
Right.
I mean, anybody wants to see a documentary, check out the one on History Channel, Carlos Hathcock. That guy was amazing with a rifle. Amazing. And he
Yeah.
said there's no way Oswald did what the Warren Commission said.
Yeah.
So end the story, in my opinion.
I agree. All right, Potatoes O'Brien, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, well, now we've got a couple of questions, Sean, on our Whalen episodes. I'm not sure which, because we've had Dave Whalen on a number of times. So
He's
I don't know.
Jim and Lisa.
What's that?
He's up there with Jim and Lisa and Rick Otto.
Oh yeah, he sure is. Yeah, he's become a regular. So this one comes from Push Pull. And it is, I guess this is just a comment, would be interesting to locate the connection between Hastings and McGowan / Gloria.
So that's got to be on the last one, Billy, because the last one is where we talked about, more about who would have been behind it with Whelan. So we talked about the Charles McGowan, very, very suspicious character, Billy. I mean, how did he, know what was going on? And just short time after he's right involved with Chapman, right after it happened, when nobody else was releasing his name. But Jay Hastings is a very, very, very suspicious. That 7-year gap in Hastings' resume, Billy, just that's a red flag for me. That's got intelligence all over it. Like, make a person disappear, and don't tell me he was laid up with a broken leg for 7 years, not doing anything.
Right.
There's no record of him for 7 years. And then when you look at, that one shot, Billy, that's in the bottom, the hole in the vestibule door that's on the bottom of the door.
Right.
So suspicious because there's no way that Chapman could have made that shot. That had to come from the top of the stairs in the inside. It's the only where that shot could have came from, Billy.
Right, because it was a downward trajectory.
Right. And then how does Hastings have all the blood all over him? You know, explain that to me. And then he says he carried Lennon's body out when the two cops who did said that he wasn't there. He didn't carry it out.
Right.
So a lot of suspicious things with Hastings. McGowan, very suspicious. You know, he ties to Stephen Alford and to Ronald Reagan and Nixon and you know, the religious right wing, which was, you know, what is the religious right wing doing all over Chapman? You know, seriously. So, I mean, yeah, that was a great episode. But yeah, let's see if we can get a connection between Hastings and McGowan. That would be great.
Would be. All right. Thank you, Push Pull. Next one comes from Latest Flame. I think this is our second question from him on this show. Again, this is on another, probably the same episode with David Whalen. Incredible episode. The 1978 trip by Chapman had intelligence written all over it, and so many issues with Hastings and the other guy whose name I forget offhand, the hotel worker. And I think he's talking about the concierge. I can't remember his name either.
Is he talking about Jose Padermo?
Padermo, I believe. Yep. And how the hell does McGowan's friend know Chapman is in custody 6 hours before the announcement?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of clairvoyance rivals the dozens of cops who show up at the Texas Theater on November 22nd, 1963. And, you know, Sean, I think it just about this whole, you know, the Lennon assassination, and Dave does a fantastic job in his book. I think for us, at least for me, my position is we're not saying who we think assassinated John Lennon. I think we're just showing that there's evidence to show that it wasn't Chapman.
Right.
And that the story we've been fed is complete bullshit.
At least not Chapman alone. I mean,
right, exactly.
There was something like like I'm not saying McGowan or Hastings were definitely involved. I'm saying they're very suspicious characters. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Very suspicious in this, and I like to get to the bottom of it. But going back to that prior question, you know, let's try to find, is there a link between Hastings and McGowan? Because that would really, really, really push the story forward, you know? So I don't know. Whelan does a great job, and both me and you went into that convinced that it was Chapman.
Right.
They're mine. So
yeah.
And we thank Lisa Pease for that, because she reached out to me on that. Otherwise, probably would have never even, had any contact with Dave Whelan.
Yeah. All right. Latest Flame. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we would like to thank our sponsor, Gracious Day Grains. Sean, you like to eat healthy, don't you?
Always, buddy. I try to eat healthy as much as I can.
Yeah. And there is nothing healthier than what they call like farm to table, right? So when you can get something right from the ground and make it and then put it right on your table. And Gracious Day Grains, they have a tremendous selection, and it's totally organic. Everything is, they don't use any sort of herbicides or pesticides or anything like that. They have a bunch of different products on their website, Gracious Day Grains. So if you go to graciousdaymilling.com, you'll find a bunch of great stuff there, Sean.
Yeah, you will, Billy. And it's owned by Tom Maxey, who's a great guy from Virginia. He's a truth seeker, just like me and you, buddy. And Tom's growing philosophy follows the wisdom of farmers of centuries past. And a quote from Tom is, "If we practice the right rotations, we exclude the bugs and weeds without needing herbicides or pesticides." So, this is great, Billy. What he's doing is fantastic.
There's cornbread mix, there's cornmeal, popcorn he sells, buckwheat Sean, have you had buckwheat pancakes?
No, buddy.
Oh they're delicious. I love buckwheat pancakes. And Gracious Day Grains sells buckwheat pancakes. Just go to their website and you'll be able to find all of this stuff there. You can order it right off the website. You can find out all about how they farm and their whole philosophy, Tom's philosophy. It's great stuff.
It really is, Billy. And one of the things he does is he grinds small batches at very low temperatures, which retains the flavor and the freshness.
Of course. And it, I mean, it can't get any fresher than that. I mean, it's literally right from the ground. So again, go to graciousdaymilling.com and just, take a look on there. You can order whatever you want and they'll send it right to your door. I mean, again, it doesn't get any fresher than that, right from Tom's farm to your door to your table. So
absolutely. And eat healthy and you'll feel better.
Absolutely. I wish I could do that. I wish I could eat healthier, Sean.
We'll start with Tom's stuff, buddy.
I'm going to order some of those buckwheat pancakes. I love
There you go. I'm going to try them too, Billy.
Yeah, they're really good. All right. Gracious Day. We thank Gracious Day Grains for their sponsorship.
Thank you.
Next one comes from, and I think this is also a comment, Gold 4278 in California, Los Angeles, California. Boys, I love the panel episode with all those top-notch guests, but you two can hold your ground with them and yet didn't say much. This is kind of the same thing as before. This was a missed opportunity that would have made a great episode even better. Food for thought. And again, we were more of, like I said, we were more of just kind of a platform for Paul to hold that panel. I think maybe we could do a reaction show to it at some point. But we're definitely going to have, we'll have Paul back on and we'll have, like you said, Sean, we'll have Greg Burnham on and John, have all those guys back on to get more involved and in depth with them.
Like I said earlier, the missed opportunity was actually not recording our conversation with John Newman at the beginning.
Exactly. Yep. So, all right. Well, Gold 4278, we thank you. From Big Ange, Ange Mariucci, another one of our great supporters and Patreons. Great episode on Pittston, guys. Would love them to make a movie. Yeah.
I heard they are making a movie, Billy. There's out there. And I heard it's in the works. But I even heard some names popped around. I heard Dominic Lamberdozzi's name popped in there.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
He would be great. He's a great actor. He's in Tulsa right now. He would be fantastic. He was just on Reacher.
That's right, yeah.
He's great. I don't know who he would be playing, if he'd be playing Billy D'Elia. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, it'd be great. That would be a great movie, Billy. It would be a great movie. But let's see, would they film it locally? Who knows? But I heard there is a script out there. I don't know, if anybody picked it up yet.
All right. Thanks, Ange. Mitch from Oregon, or Oregon. I don't know. People always get upset about how you pronounce Oregon. Bill and Sean, your show is fabulous, but you should revisit some past episode topics like Charles Manson and the book Chaos and D.B. Cooper. As much as I love those episodes, I feel you guys left a lot out and have more to say.
Well,
I don't know. What did we leave out?
I don't think we left a lot out, Billy. I think the problem is, though, we tried. I'm still working on getting on Tom O'Neill, the author of Chaos, and also Tom Colbert, the author of the book that really points the finger at Robert Rockshaw as D.B. Cooper. So if I could get those two authors on, we'll do 2 more episodes on that topic. But until something new really comes up, Billy, I mean, maybe we could do another one on Manson. I don't know. But we need more information. And like I said, if I could get them authors on, we'll do another one. But we're just so backed up right now, Billy. I mean, we're into August already, buddy, with guests and with topics, and we're pushing on close to September already with what we got lined up.
And I think we did a pretty good job covering those 2 topics. So.
I think so. A lot of people really like the Manson episode, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great feedback. And the Cooper one was a little bit early when we first started it, but people enjoyed that.
Yep. All right. Well, Mitch, thank you. Appreciate you listening all the way out there in Oregon. All right. Here's a local fella, Miles in Oliphant, Pennsylvania, which is right around the corner.
Oh.
Sean and Bill love the content and the guests. I want to see some guests return that were only on once, unless I missed something. I mean, like Jason, the history guy. That's
Jason Bajovich?
I think so.
Yeah, we're working on getting him back. There's just tough working out the schedule to get him.
Yeah, but he was a great guest. Yeah,
he was great.
And what was he? What was the topic? Wasn't the topic
on history, Billy, on marketing, how presidents
marketing history? That's right. That's what it was. Yeah. I would love to have him
he was going to talk about the right wing evangelist ties to the Republican Party. He was going to come back
Right.
and talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to get
It's
him
so
back on.
prevalent now, especially with the Lenin thing and stuff. And
That's right.
who else did he say he wants back?
He said the doctor from Indonesia.
Greg Palgrain, Dr. Greg
Paul
Palgrain.
Grain. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, you know what, we were thinking about bringing him on for an episode we got coming up with Lisa, talk about Dog Hammarskjöld.
Right.
But the problem with Palgrain is that he's either in Australia or Indonesia, and it's hard to line up a time to record.
Mhm.
Because remember, when we recorded him, Billy, we had to do it a late Saturday night. I think it was
Right.
because they're like 12 hours ahead or something like that, and it's just hard to line up. So yeah, I'd love to have him back. There's a lot more we could talk about. It's just we got to line up the schedule when he's available and when we're available, and there's a 12-hour time difference.
That's right. All right, but we appreciate you, Miles, for listening. All right, a couple more, Sean. One comes from Alf, who I'm assuming is on Melmac. So interesting. Is Shaw's work on Dorothy Kilgallon also BS? That seemed quite well documented. The Kennedy stuff doesn't surprise me with him because he's a right-wing wacko. I would love to see a movie or deep dive on Dorothy Kilgallon. Whatever info she got in New Orleans clearly cost her life, and her friend she gave a copy of her transcript to as well, I believe.
Okay, so with the shot thing and Dorothy Kilgallon, it's not, yeah, it's BS, and it's not really well documented. Anything Shaw does is not well documented. We talked about him with Don McGovern, talked about him with Jim DiEugenio, all the stuff he does with the cropping of the pictures, but that's not to say the problem is, Billy, he brings in Marilyn Monroe into the Dorothy Kilgallon story, and there's nothing down that road. He brings in Carlos Marcello because, of course, you mentioned New Orleans, has to be Marcello, right? But where was Oswald the summer before? New Orleans. So when Dorothy Kilgallon goes to Jack Ruby in the jail cell and talks to him, and whatever she said, she comes out and says, I'm going to blow the Kennedy assassination wide open. And then she's dead not too long after that. So that is suspicious. It is. But it has nothing to do with Marilyn Monroe, and it has nothing to do with Carlos Marcello. I think, when whatever Ruby told her, ties to New Orleans, ties to what Oswald was doing that summer before with the anti-Castro Cubans. He's down there in 544 Camp Street. We got an episode. We just had Jim DiEugenio and Mark Adamczyk on, right? And we talk about that in length about what was going on there in New Orleans. So
Right.
I think the Kilgallon death is suspicious, but I don't think it has anything to do with what Mark Shaw said it does. It has
Right.
nothing to do with Marilyn Monroe, nothing to do with Carlos Marcello. I think it has to do with what Ruby told her about Oswald's ties to 544 Camp and the anti-Castro movement down there. Is people like Sergio Kacha-Smith, Guy Bannister, David Farry. That's where I think the connection is with Kilgallon.
Yeah. All right. All right, Alf. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is a good comment. He or she comments a lot on Twitter, I believe, constantly on Twitter. Always great comments. Always good to hear from Alf.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Last one, Sean. Up the Raw from Belfast, Ireland. What does that mean? Up the Raw.
IRA, Billy. That's a like a war slogan to the Irish Republican Army. And
Okay.
free Northern Ireland from British rule, buddy.
Gotcha. Bill and Sean, love the content. I haven't listened to any speakeasy episodes yet, but I will be joining. It is so worth it for just $1. You're absolutely right. You two put out great content and are really loyal to those who listen. My question is, if you could meet any actor from The Sopranos, who would it be and why?
Ooh,
I know one I wouldn't want to meet.
Yeah, that's true. Tell that story, Billy. You can tell.
I will. So, Vincent Curatola, who played Johnny Sack, who was my favorite character on The Sopranos. I followed him on Twitter, and this was years and years and years ago. I followed him on Twitter, and I noticed that, and I don't know if this is still going on today, but I noticed that everything he posted on Twitter was a black guy killing a white cop, right? Because this was around the time geez, I forget. There was something happened. There was something in the news. I mean, there's always something in the news about, black people being killed by cops, and it's a horrible thing that's happened in this country and keeps happening. But he always seemed to counter with, here's a story about a white cop that was killed by a black guy. And Sean, that's not a coincidence. I mean, clearly there's something going on there. And I decided I wasn't going to, follow him anymore. I wasn't interested in that. And usually when I unfollow somebody, I just click the button and that's the end of it. But for some reason, I decided with him that I was going to mention it. I put the whatever his Twitter handle is. And I said, my comment to him was, I followed you because of the person you played on TV. I'm unfollowing you because of who you are in real life. And to me, that was the end of it. And I didn't think he'd ever see it or whatever. What's that?
Good. That's a good comment.
Yeah. And I didn't think, who knows if I had no idea if he'd ever see it or care about it or whatever. Not only did he see it and care about it, but he started attacking me. Started telling me that if I knew who he really was, that I wouldn't sleep at night. That he started like literally threatening me, and then all of his other followers started in on it. I had to block him. I had to block all these people. I had to report it to Twitter because I was like, these were threatening comments that he was kind of leading the charge on.
There's an actor, Bill, who thinks he's actually playing. He's really the guy who plays on TV.
It sounds like it. And then I'm also on Twitter. So I follow Joe Ganascoli, who played Vito, and he follows me back. So I'm able to message him, and he's messaged me in the past. We've talked before, and I messaged him and I said, "Do you know Vince?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I know him pretty well." I said, "Well, is this in his character? Like, why would he do this?" And he said, "I don't know. He was probably having fun with you." I said, "No, Vince, this was not fun." I said, I had to like report this to Twitter. And he said, "I don't know." He said, "I'll, if I ever see him, I'll ask him about it." But that was the end. I never heard anything else about it. But anyway, that's my Vince Curatola story. If there was one actor that I would like to meet, it would be Michael Imperioli, because I think he's not only was he great on The Sopranos, he's great on everything he's done. He seems like he's a really down to earth guy. He's in a band. He does so many really cool things. I really, really like him. Everything he's done. I'd love to meet, he played Christopher, of course, on The Sopranos, but yeah, I'd love to meet Michael Imperioli. What about you, Sean?
Well, I mean, the two that obviously they're not here anymore would have been Gandolfini and Tony Sirica, who played Pawly.
Sure.
I would like
Sure.
to meet. Pawly Walnuts was my favorite character on The Sopranos.
Yeah.
But Imperioli would be interesting to meet. I agree, but just to be a little different, I would probably want to meet Steve Sciarippa, who played Baca.
Yeah.
He's on Blue Bloods now. He does a great job playing a cop. Yep. Blue Bloods. Think about going from a gangster to cop, and he does a great job. And I'd like to meet him. He's a funny guy. He's always got great stories. He told that story about the guy, in New York. He's walking down and he says, I watched the show. I'm a fan, but he says, anybody who's ever whacked anybody knows that's not the way you do it. And Steve's like, "I got to go finish the laundry. Nice to see you. Goodbye." But yeah, he's a funny guy. I'd like to meet him. But it was a great cast. So really any of them, Billy, really any of them that if you have a chance to meet them, and you actually was able to talk to two of them on Twitter. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, one of them was cool.
Pretty bad. Yeah, one of them anyway. But yeah, I mean, Gandolfini, though, you hear so many great things about what a great guy he was, and how, when they were struggling, waiting for David Chase to come back from France or wherever he was because there was such a big gap in between seasons because David Chase wanted to do other things, and Gandolfini actually gave some of the actors money out of his own pocket, Billy. I mean, you never see that. When do you ever see that?
That's
so, and
yeah, he was.
What a great guy he was, and so humbled. And you hear the Julia Roberts story where she was waving to him, and he never acknowledged her, and she asked him why, and he said, "Well, I didn't think you were waving to me, because why would you wave to me? I'm a
Right.
nobody." That's the way he felt. Like, he was so humbled by anybody that would acknowledge him. But he was great. He was great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't, he didn't like to talk about himself, right? When he would deny
No.
requests for interviews all the time, because he just thought, why do people want to talk to me? I'm not an interesting person. And, I think he played interesting people. He certainly had a process, and was one of the best of all time.
He was good in a lot of things, Billy, not just Tony Soprano. Remember
absolutely.
the one on the Zero Dark 30?
Yeah.
It's Pineda, right? And he's just so good in that role. He's just so good in that role. Like, he just different things he played. True Romance. Yeah. Just a great actor. Just a great actor.
Yeah. All right, Sean. This was another great question, comment episode. We just keep getting more and more and more, and there's more now. Even since we put this episode together, so we'll do another one.
So just be patient. We'll get to you.
We really appreciate it. We have great listeners, great questions and comments. And, we really, really, really enjoy the feedback and the interaction with you guys. So keep them coming. And for those who are, maybe new to the show, don't hesitate, reach out if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a suggestion about a topic or a guest or whatever. We love those. So please, don't hesitate. Make sure that you are subscribing. If you watch us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe, because that'll help us out. It'll really help the show. I think the ratio of views to subscribers is way off. We need you guys. If you're sitting there watching it, please, it doesn't take much. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe. And if you're listening to us on podcasts, make sure you rate and review and you follow. Again, that helps us out, and we really appreciate it, because it's, to keep this show going, we want to make sure that, the popularity is there, the visibility is there. And go ahead, Sean. I know you're going to say something.
Yeah, because, Bill, we really need those reviews. Give us some good reviews, because what happens is you get a couple jackals out there that give us a bad review, and I think a couple of them were some people that we banned, and then they try to get back at us. But what happens with a bad review is it pulls down the algorithm, and then when people are searching for us, we're not coming up as quickly as we should be, and that really hurts us. And we're also up against it with YouTube. Anything with JFK, they put that stupid disclaimer on that Oswald did it, and then they gut our episodes. And Bill, I'm totally convinced. I don't know where you are, but that Bop program, I mean, we don't get episodes gutted that are on Michael Jackson with Monica, even John Lennon stuff. I mean, it's only the JFK stuff that are getting gutted, and that's, it's not a coincidence, and that's another problem we're having. So, I mean, give us a good review, because there are jackals out there, Billy, and they're getting a little bit louder. We have made a couple enemies, buddy, me and you. So, and we know one loud one down in Dallas that we banned, so I'm sure he's gonna try something. So, yeah, and comment,
again, if you're watching on YouTube, now that we're doing video, let us know how we're doing. We're always trying new things, new backgrounds, new whatever, to make the show look better. So, just let us know what you think. And
we're open to, constructive criticism. If somebody's got a complaint or something that they think will make the show better, sure, let us know. We're not going to, bite your head off for that. But it's just jackals, the nonsense, the people attack. And I've been, and the other thing, Bill, is these phony, stupid friend requests on social media. Like, it's just, I'm deleting like 20, 30 a day, Billy. Because it fake profiles and all this other nonsense, and jackals, coming at us and stuff. So, I mean, it gets frustrating after a while.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, Sean. Great episode. Thank you to the listeners. We couldn't do these episodes without you guys, so we appreciate it. Right. And that's enough out of you.
Good night, everybody.
That's Enough Out of You podcast is executive produced and written by Bill Rader and Sean Kane, and edited by Bill Rader. The That's Enough Out of You podcast and logo are exclusive property of Bags of Chicken, LLC. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or accounts of this podcast without the express written consent of Bags of Chicken LLC is prohibited. So don't even try it.